Everybody, Rich with PrepU down here in the bunker on a very nice night here in communist realm of Illinois, coming to you. And we are talking about um, Protect Illinois Communities Act and the continuing lawsuits that keep popping up against this law that was passed last January 1st of 2023, and having it fully in effect by January 1, 2024. So for those of you that are new to us, what I'm going to do is let's do a quick overview of what PICA is. PICA, Protect Illinois Communities Act, basically started out as insurance regulation law, and then it was quickly changed. They snuck it in and changed the whole um, what do I want to say, the gist of the law. And it's basically Illinois' prohibition on high-powered semi-automatic firearms. And the reason I'm saying firearms is because it does not only cover rifles, which they're saying, semi-automatic, you know, assault rifles, which is not even a word, doesn't make any sense. They're modern sporting rifles, some of the most widely held firearms in the country. It covers both them, and it covers some pistols. Okay, so rifles of then the magazine was, you can't have more than 10 rounds for rifles and 15 rounds for firearms, making a lot of firearms that couldn't adapt to a smaller magazine be illegal in the state. And then, of course, the 50 cal rifle, 50 cal bullet itself was also prohibited. And then anybody that had the modern sporting rifle had to register it starting October 1st with the Illinois State Police on their website through the end of the year. And then after the first of the year, if you're caught with it, it was against the law. Okay, basically, so that's what the law is basically about. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in there about different items that affected different agencies within the state of Illinois. But that was really the gist, and that's where the lawsuits are coming from. Lawsuits were filed in state and federal courts shortly after the measure was enacted. Outcomes, since they range from a preliminary injunction against the law being issued in federal court being stayed, thousands of temporary restraining orders being issued in state courts being vacated, and continued filings challenging the law on the Second and 14th Amendment ground, among other issues. In one of the cases that was brought by Representative Calkins, brought to the state earlier this year, they received a favorable ruling against the law in Macon County. Okay, Pritzker administration quickly brought an appeal to that one. Now, this is just one of them. Okay, there are several. We're not going to talk about all of them. I'll kind of go into what's left out there at the end of this video, and we'll talk about that just a little. But we're talking about specifically about the lawsuits that Representative Calkins brought. So Pritzker and his administration went directly to the Supreme Court, and then the attorneys, Calkins' attorneys, then motioned for two of the Illinois Supreme Court justices who each received $1 million in campaign contributions from Pritzker to recuse themselves in the case, and that was denied. And even Pritzker himself said, "This is ridiculous. Just because I personally gave each one of them from my campaign fund $500,000, and from my own checkbook $500,000, and why would you think that they would be impartial?" He said this was ridiculous. So basically, the Illinois Supreme Court upheld the law in a 4-3 decision in August, and there was some quite contention between the decision and the opposite. I'm at a loss of words right now. What the dissenting views? The dissenting view was there's quite a lot of contention between the judges about that. Well, now Representative Calkins, a Republican, has petitioned the nation's highest court to review the state Supreme Court's decision to uphold the law on due process, equal protection, and Second Amendment grounds. Okay, and we're talking U.S. Supreme Court. All right, and we've all been kind of waiting for this to get there. Although the clock is ticking. All right, which what I'm talking about is registration clock ticking. But we'll get into that. So the petition argues that Justices Elizabeth Rothford and Mary Kay O'Brien participated in the case despite receiving campaign contributions from those who support the bill. That's what I just said. Calkins told WRSP-TV both Justice Rochford and O'Brien received disappropriate campaign contributions and both made commitments to support the legislation policy of banning assault weapons during their campaign. So those of you that don't know that are outside Illinois, Illinois Supreme Court justices are elected and they campaign, and they have a D or an R or an I by their name. It's just automatic. Okay, so additionally, the donations to these justices came from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, I just talked about that, the $1 million, and State House Speaker Chris Welch, which calls into question the independency of the judiciary and the separation of powers. All right, so he set that forth. Well, lo and behold, on Tuesday, the U.S. Supreme Court docketed a case brought by Illinois State Rep. Dan Calkins, Republican out of Decatur, challenging the state's gun and magazine ban. And then separately in the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court Tuesday, a judge denied the state's motion to delay responding to plaintiffs seeking an injunction against the January 1st registry deadline. And also this week, a second separate motion was filed by plaintiffs out of Naperville to have the entire Seventh Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals review the case. All right, let's back up. That was a sentence, that was a paragraph that had a lot of stuff in it. So, what do we know? So, from the case that the Illinois Supreme Court said the state is right to have these firearms and magazines banned, now the U.S. Supreme Court is going to hear that case based on that decision. All right. In the Southern District of Illinois federal case, Tuesday, the state had requested, because a petition had been brought forth by the plaintiffs saying that, wait, you know what, this is taking way too long. Registry has started. It's supposed to be ended on December 31st, making everybody that's not going to register a felon. Can we hold off on this? Can we at least till all this, these legal things get taken care of, can we not have a sunset on the registry, to register, I should say? And the state said, well, no, we're not going to give that. That's not going to happen. And the judge goes, hold on, state. Hold on one second. You know what? Let me take a look at it. Let's have some, let's talk about this and I'll get back to you. Okay, so the judge is going to look at it against the state's wishes, but with the plaintiff's wishes. All right. And then also this week, a second separate motion was filed by plaintiffs out of Naperville. And if you remember that case was brought by several gun organizations and a gun store in the city of Naperville, which has a separate laws against modern sporting rifles. I caught myself on that one. And what they're asking for, we don't want just the 3 members of the Seventh Circuit, to make a decision on this stuff. We want the whole Seventh Circuit to hear this case and figure it out. So what they want is the entire Seventh Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals to review that case. So there you go. Um, and then on Wednesday, that was yesterday, Calkins was hopeful the U.S. Supreme Court will look at the perceived conflicts and disqualify the two Illinois Supreme Court justices, which could lead to the state gun ban being overturned. This is going to go on forever, absolutely ever. Um, so then, when we talk about the Southern District case again, with Illinois Judge Stephen McGlynn. Again, he talked about despite the two of the three judges from the Seventh Circuit, of Court of Appeals, ruling the state had the likelihood of succeeding on the merits of the case, federal firearm licensees of Illinois and other plaintiffs motioned this week for a preliminary injunction. All right, so on that one, Stephen McGlynn denied the state's motion, like we already talked about, but he was giving a December 21st date for a status hearing. All right, so again, the clock's ticking, getting close. So on the 21st, both parties will set forth they will make their arguments, and then hopefully, what was he got? 10 days? No, yeah, 10 days to make a decision on that. So, but anyhow, so let's talk about some other things. In updates from other cases, we talked about the Naperville case, asking for the Seventh Circuit plaintiff group to all come together and make a decision on this case. And that was the challenge of the state's ban and registry, arguing it is unconstitutionally vague. And that one's in the Southern District of Illinois, so we know that. So what's going on? In conclusion, to draw all this stuff together, this is what I got together. So there are still state suits pending and more coming. Multiple federal suits and injunctions pending, with one asking for the full Seventh Circuit decision. And now the U.S. Supreme Court will hear arguments on the Illinois Supreme Court's handling of the lawsuit brought to them and their decision based on the judges not being impartial, actually being paid for and gotten elected by money from people that made the law in the first place. So that's where we're at. Everything's still pending. Everything's still going on. But where do we stand with this? I've said this before in other videos. I'm going to say it again. This law is not set in stone. This law is not the law of the land. It is, but it isn't. This registry thing. Now there's the U.S. Supreme Court's looking at the registry, along with the Seventh Circuit, the Southern District. I wouldn't register, because here's the problem. Okay, let's say you register, and then the law becomes null and void by the United States Supreme Court, and they throw it out. You've registered your firearms. What's going to happen with that information? If you are going to register, okay, and we can talk about that some other time down the road, don't do it yet. Don't put your information out. And according to Center Square, which is a great website with Mr. Bishop, who is an excellent reporter down in Springfield, and even he has said that it's less than 1/10 or 2/10 of 1% of all registered FOID owners. Now, granted, he has said not all FOID owners own modern sporting rifles or pistols with magazines that hold more than 15 rounds, but people just aren't registering. People are throwing up the middle finger to the state and to this governor, saying, sorry, Charlie, not going to happen. Let's get this all figured out, and then maybe we'll register if it's upheld. So that's basically it. More to come. Should have said when I started this video, sit down, put your seatbelt on. It's going to be a wild ride. And I suppose in reality, it's not time to take that seatbelt off yet. If you have any other questions about some of the other videos, we've got a whole bunch of videos that go over this, and we will have more as time goes on. And for those of you that are my prepping crowd, again, I explained to you why I'm so into the 2A thing is because you've spent all this money prepping. How are you going to protect it? Okay? You have to protect yourself. You have to protect your family. You have to protect your preps. Okay? And the Second Amendment gives you that right. Actually, God gave you that right to protect yourself, your family, and your property. So that's it for now. But as we always end our videos, please always be aware of your surroundings, especially now. Please have enough food, water, medicine, ammunition, and whatever else you might need to shelter in place 6 months, a year, 2 years, should it be necessary. And plenty of food, water, medicine, and ammunition if you have to bug out in smaller condensed containers, like stuff like this, stuff like that, and stuff like that you can get out of Dodge as fast as you can. That's why you need to be aware of your surroundings, and please prep like your life depends on it. Thank you. Please subscribe. Please send this to other 2A lovers and preppers and those that just want to protect their families. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot. See you next time.